Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. This is Two Catholic Dudes. My name is Ryan Klaus.
My name is Danny Cleary.
As always, this guy's fixing his microphone before we start, and we're not priests, we're not theologians, we're just two Catholic dudes, and we're talking about our faith. You got it. You did the whole.
I did
it all.
Yeah, here we are. We're here. It's the first time in a while we're not filming in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we almost filmed in the middle of the night last night at like 1:30.
We were too tired.
Very tired. So we woke up and we're doing a traditional morning podcast.
We used to do them at 10.
Yeah, this was like our first 12 podcasts we would do at this time. So
it's 10:02, which
yeah.
is exactly the same time that the podcast comes out on Mondays too.
There you go.
Wow, full circle.
Yeah. Hope you guys are having a good 2020. We are into February, and this time of year, you know what's happening right now?
Groundhog Day.
Yeah. We're doing a whole podcast on Groundhog Day, the theology behind Groundhog and Bill Murray. That's a great movie. Speaking of movies, you know what's this Sunday?
The Oscars.
The Oscars, that's right.
The Oscars. I almost said the Grammys. That already happened.
The Grammys was last week, and I didn't watch it at all, but I heard there were some tributes to Kobe, which they put together in like 4 hours, I heard, because it was literally the same day that happened.
Yeah, it was that night.
So super sad.
It's just a horrible tragedy, especially for anyone that was a big fan of Kobe, and like he was like one of my childhood heroes. So it was tough. It was a tough day.
I think I read a post about it. I mean, everyone was posting about it, and someone said it was just like, we don't know him personally, or we didn't know him personally, but someone felt like they were part of their childhood group of friends because they were all into basketball, and they like literally grew up with him in their lives, watching him and rooting for him and supporting like what he was doing for basketball.
And like when you're a big fan of a team, when I was in elementary school, middle school is when they won their back-to-back championships, and Kobe and Shaq were the dynamic duo of basketball. You feel like you're part of the team. We talked about that a little bit on our
sports episode.
Yeah, and like I had the Lakers are the only team I ever even had that with when I was a kid. Mostly because I think it was the time when me and my dad were together. We watched that together, and it was like some of the best memories I have with my dad.
Yeah.
When I was growing up. So anyway,
so you have that strong emotional connection to that sport, to the memories in your life, but then the figure becomes inspirational as well. And so when we lose them in such a tragedy like this, you take it to heart.
Yeah.
Even though you're not personal friends with them or anything, but they're it's just an icon in your life, and it's rough.
And the thing about the beautiful thing that we found out that was reported is that Kobe was at Catholic Mass that morning.
Yeah, he literally like left from the Mass, I believe.
Went Mass to the airport.
Yeah.
So literally celebrating Mass, receiving communion was the last thing that him and his daughter did on this earth. And that, as sad and as horrible as all this is, that brings me so much comfort with all this.
Right.
And Kobe actively talked about all the struggles and troubles and things that he went through in his life, that he turned to his faith to kind of turn him around. He talked about that in several accounts.
That's it. It's turn to your faith in those moments, good or bad. Yeah. And I saw a lot of people they were like, I can't handle this right now. I gotta cancel these things that I got going on in my life. I just need to take time, and I'm kind of spiraling out of control. It's like in those moments, run to Christ. Don't run away from Christ. Like He will guide you through it.
Absolutely.
So
that's the thing is, and the other thing is, cherish the people in your life, guys, because we know our life on earth as Catholic Christians is only the smallest part of our journey. That our journey ends with being with Christ eventually, hopefully in heaven. So, but cherish the people in your life now.
Yeah, because you don't know how long. I mean, this time on Earth, this is like dark at the beginning of this podcast, but
guys.
It's good. I think it's good to talk about. I just came out here. We weren't planning on doing this podcast today, but I came out here yesterday for a funeral. But this was actually one of my friend's great grandpas. He was 99, almost 100 years old.
Jeepers!
And what a long, amazing life. It was sometimes you get amazing eulogies at these funerals, and I feel like I'm part of the family because I didn't know him, but it's amazing, and I feel like
you get to know him.
I get to know him in that moment. It's a really beautiful liturgy, but this guy he served in World War War II, and he became a general in the war, and then he joined the police force, and he was one of the founding fathers of the SWAT team.
Wow.
Crazy, you know?
Jeez.
So, and he lived this long life, but really 99 years, it goes by like that, you know? So
realistically,
you got to make the most of this time and really strive to be one with Christ while we are here and unite with him in everything that we do, because it's a quick time we got here.
And take the example, of the late great Kobe Bryant. He made sure Mass and being with Christ in the Eucharist was a priority in his life,
right,
in his busy life. So we can do the same. We can take that example from Kobe.
Exactly.
Anyway,
but yeah, so I came out here yesterday for that, and then I hung around and I got to spend some time with family. And I do have to jet out of here this afternoon because I got rehearsals and stuff tonight. But we thought we'd squeeze a podcast in, because we got Oscars coming up, I figured we'd talk about some movies, huh?
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. I love movies.
It'll be a light episode. I was actually nervous about this episode because, I love movies. Who doesn't like movies?
Right.
There's probably some people, but
who does like movies?
I don't know. It's
like I don't listen to music.
I don't like music. I prefer the idea of music more than I like to listen to.
I don't watch movies. I'll just listen to the radio. Yeah, right.
Or read the book.
Read a book. Yeah, sure.
We could talk. Well, that's maybe something that we'll talk about is movies.
Is the book for I'm a bad
movie adaptation from books. But yeah, I don't. So I love movies, but I'm not like a movie buff, and I don't really have a lot to talk about.
Nor am I.
So we're just gonna riff here. We didn't really plan much up, but we're gonna riff on movies.
And the reason we talked about this is because I did a youth ministry night one time I found a bunch of different clips from movies, and we created discussion questions with the teens about where do you see God in these clips? Where can we take our Catholic values and lessons of Jesus in this movie? Like, where can we see God in these movies? Because I think that it's important sometimes too, when we're out in the regular world, and we're gonna see, nobody is just only Catholic stuff all the time, right? Mm-hmm. You're gonna go out and you're gonna do and experience all kinds of different things. You're gonna see movies. You're gonna play video games. You're gonna read books.
We know a priest who's extremely devout, but he goes to Disneyland all the time. And he goes on rides and stuff.
Yeah, we're still human beings that are gonna be in this world, and I think that what we can do to keep Christ and acknowledge Christ always is look for him, even in the secular things. Christ moves in everything, and we can. And I think that he calls us to find him, search for him.
Right, and in a lot of movies, there is an intentional. They write in intentional Catholic values or Christian values, but a lot of times we can interpret what's going on, and they didn't even intend that, but you can see those Catholic values shining through those characters or those situations, even if it wasn't intended by the writers or the directors.
Absolutely, and that's something that's what I did with the night with the teens. And I thought it'd be such a fun episode for us to kind of dive in and talk about, see if we can find some more in movies that we like. We're just gonna kind of shoot the breeze and talk about some movies.
So you probably got more of a foundation of all those things. I'm just gonna riff on ideas about movies.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about does anyone still watch the Oscars? Do you watch the Oscars?
I don't think I've ever. No, I watched the Oscars. I don't remember what year it was. I'm gonna look it up. But when Lord of the Rings won, I watched the Oscars.
I'm gonna guess the Return of the King, right?
Return of the King's the only one that won.
2003. 2003. He's looking it up. I'm gonna keep.
2004.
Oh man.
So anyways,
so close.
We looked up Best Picture, like the movies that won Best Picture from 2000 up until now.
Yeah.
And we want to go through the list and see which ones we've seen.
Okay.
Because these are the best movies.
Right.
And I always think that I that's why I stopped watching the Oscars, and I would go to these, and my mom would be watching them, and I'd go, I've never seen any of these movies.
Well, I stopped watching for many reasons. One, I don't have cable anymore, so
I also don't have cable.
I can't watch it. I think that's common for a lot of people now. I think many people cut the cord and we're just on Netflix and our devices and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, live TV's out, which is another reason why I kind of fell off of sports. I used to watch the Dodgers all the time.
Right. Sorry
for all you guys that are Giants fans or whatever out there. Dodgers for life here, but I don't watch them anymore because I don't have live TV. And then live things like that. We didn't watch the Grammys the other night. And
I don't even know how to watch the Super Bowl.
But I don't want to watch them because it's 5 hours long and there's a commercial every 4 minutes, and then there's all this filler and fluff and the speeches go on too long.
And everyone's throwing their political agendas
throw
around.
Their agendas.
Yeah, it's just
we didn't chat about it. But what's the girl who talked about abortion?
I don't remember her name.
It's not even worth remembering her name.
But yeah, that she said that she spoke about how she wouldn't have won the Grammy or the
Golden Globe if she didn't get an abortion.
She didn't get an abortion, and I was like,
unbelievable.
I'm glad that your hunk of metal was worth killing your baby for. Like,
absolutely
it's disgusting, to be honest. And I very much, like, all of us as Catholics should be very much pro-life, choosing life always. The life of a person and the human dignity of a person is more valuable than anything else. And like
100%.
Like if you're gonna like
look at the March for Life was just this last week in DC.
Yeah, there
was hundreds of thousands of Catholics. And you know what's crazy is the women's march was like in like San Francisco and I think also DC or somewhere. And there was like maybe tens of thousands, but that got so much coverage, and there was like minimal coverage on the March for Life. And this was the very first time the president of the United States spoke publicly at the March for Life, and like barely any coverage. But like over 200,000 people, I believe, marched.
And we could get it. Well, we won't get into all the politics of things. Maybe one day, maybe one episode.
Well, we're gonna have an episode because we got some friends now that are key players. We might
in
be
the pro-life
in the pro-life, so we might be getting an episode on that pretty soon.
Cool,
because it's really a topic that needs to be brought to the light. I'm not saying we're the channel that's like gonna illuminate everything,
but at the same time, like the more the people are talking about being pro-life,
that's right.
the more awareness that we bring to it, and the more that we can keep pushing for life.
That's right. So a lot of reasons why we don't watch the Oscars,
right.
But all these actors and actresses that are spouting their agendas, but like people hold them to such high regard. It's like why should I listen to you? You just like read lines. Yeah, you
don't even drive yourself anywhere. Well. Anyway,
it's wild.
So let's get back to it. We're all over the place today, but it's all right.
It's fine. It's early morning. We're tired.
So here we go. In 2000, American Beauty won.
I saw like half of that movie.
Never saw
it. It's weird.
Okay. 2001, The Gladiator.
It's just Gladiator.
You're right.
You sound like
it's literally right in front of me.
Like when old people put the in front. I'm sorry, anyone that's old. Oh, that's all right. People just alienated our entire.
That's everyone just. I could hear.
I saw you on the Facebook.
Gladiator.
Love you guys. Oh man.
So Gladiator. I saw Gladiator.
Great movie.
Good movie.
Great movie.
Then in 2002, it was Beautiful Mind.
I never saw that.
It was A Beautiful Mind. I left that a word there.
Yeah, sure.
Never saw that. And then it was 2003.
Russell Crowe, 2 years in a row?
2 years in a row.
Wow.
Then it was The Chicago.
Nope.
Just Chicago. Never saw
that
either.
Was that the first musical that won? Maybe?
Maybe. I didn't see it. 2004, Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
All right, we're going to run through this quicker. we got like 15 more years.
2005 was $1 Million Baby. 2006 was The Crash. 2007 was Departed.
Just Crash. Crash was a surprise win that year. If you guys remember, Crash was the movie about race in Los Angeles. Also pretty political, very political. And yeah, it was like they didn't win any award the entire Oscars. And then all of a sudden they won Best Picture and everyone was just like absolutely shocked. I forget what the front runner was that year, but Crash just kind of came out of nowhere. And people still think that was a huge mistake. Because it was very political, very, very agenda driven.
Well, the year after that was The Departed.
Great movie.
And then No Country for Old Men in 2008. And then we had, I skipped a bunch. The Hurt Locker was after that.
Yep.
And then The King's Speech, The Artist, Argo, 12 Years a Slave, Birdman, Spotlight, Moonlight, and The Shape of Water.
You know what my favorite movie on that list is? Birdman. Did you see that?
Nope.
Oh, man, you got to watch that.
I literally didn't see... I only saw 12 Years a Slave.
Birdman is very similar.
Within the last 7 years, I only saw one.
We can talk about why that is in just a sec, but Birdman, that was by far my favorite on that list because it was an interesting concept. First of all, the score was just like jazz drums with no music, no like actual instruments. Drums are an instrument. It was just drums. Okay. But it was very similar to 1917, the movie that is a contender this week for the Oscars, in which a lot of it was like a one-shot sequence, or it looked like it was a one-shot sequence. You know what I'm talking about in that, where where it's like a one take,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they use creative cuts to, like, you know, when something blacks out the camera, it goes, but it looks like you're just kind of following along the characters. And 1917 took that kind of to a new level. That was phenomenal, but it was interesting because I want to get into this, and might be why you haven't seen a lot of those movies. I talked about it on the previous episode. Is our culture is so just overstimulated with everything. Movies back in the day were a lot simpler. We would follow like a storyline, sometimes two. TV shows as well. And now that wasn't enough, and it was like 3 storylines that are split, and now it's 4 and 5, and now we're following like a million different storylines, all these different things, and we're being inundated with special effects and action and cuts and whatever. And so 1917 is unique that it's just like, it's one thing. Like, you guys know the storyline. It's just like 2 British soldiers have to go behind German enemy lines and warn the troops that their attack is going to be foiled, and they're going to lose a ton of troops. That's it. That's the only thing. And you just follow them in one continuous shot. Obviously it's edited, but one shot through the whole movie, and you're not following anything else. You don't have to keep up with anything else. So for some people it might be kind of slow, but it's like, it's real, it's raw, but it's different, you know, from all that we've been getting. So I think that's part of the reason that a lot of these movies that win are a little bit more artsy. And our culture is just like inundated with just this overstimulation and secularism and like. Do you want to go see the Transformers movie again? You all right? Am I boring you? Oh boy.
I think I disagree a little bit.
Sure.
Because I like sometimes, like the Marvel universe, I like that all those movies connect and they're all different and unique, because I think that they are their own story that all connects together. As I think a lot of the times, as even in the scriptures, there's a lot of different things that are happening in different times, but they all connect through God, you know, and they all kind of lead to the new covenant of Christ.
Well, yeah, what you said is, I completely agree with that. I think it goes back to whatever you do it with quality and do it right. So the Marvel universe, amazing. I am a huge fan. I think everything that they did up to Endgame was just like, it was some of the best filmmaking I've ever seen, just like, because it draws you in emotionally, and you have all these storylines and arcs and everything going on, but it's combined with all this crazy special effects. It's everything that we have in cinema to this point, like, done super well. But you look at the flip side, and the DC universe is just a disaster, because they're
bad movies.
They threw all these storylines and arcs, but did it horribly, and all this special effects and did it horribly, and nobody got anything out of it.
It seems like they just tried to recreate what was successful in the Marvel universe.
Right.
They tried to go, well, they worked for them, so let's do the same thing where we'll make a bunch of movies and then connect them all together, and it was just horribly done.
Right. You rush it. You don't put care and quality behind it, and it shows, and people responded, and it was not great for them. So it goes back to whatever you do it well. Do it with quality, do it with care and devotion. And that goes back to a couple episodes ago about ministering. What was our episode on don't getting burned out? Is do it with care. So I always talk about music. You know, people talk about the problem with the Catholic Church is all the modern music and everything, and adding drums and adding electronic instruments and stuff like that. That's kind of like the people saying that the problem with cinema right now is all the special effects, and everyone's just relying on special effects and stuff like that. But as we just proved that, or at least in our opinion, that the Marvel movies can do it well. You can add all that technology, all that new stuff in cinema, and you can still create an amazing story. You have the content behind it. You have the writing. As long as the storyline is there and that there's care behind it, it's done well. So if you do modern music, you can accomplish that. You have to make sure that your theology is sound, that you're doing the songs that are saying the right thing, that you're saying the right message. But if you put the right care into adding those instruments in, the technology and everything, you can create amazing works and music at mass that can lift people up.
Yeah, for sure. I'm into that. I don't disagree that with the music thing. I'm all about it, and I think that it does really bring a new vibe. We've talked about it on tons of episodes. Anyway, and going back to, I think a lot of the times too, the reason that that movies are the ones that win are because they're not like the popular to the public movies. They're like some of them I don't even like. I'm like, was this even in theaters?
Right.
But that doesn't really, that it doesn't really matter,
but so the public usually goes and sees all the remakes and the reboots and the stuff that they're already invested in. And that's I think that's an issue in the movie industry right now. How many more times are we going to see another Star Wars movie?
Hopefully forever.
I don't know, that we disagree on this last one that just came out, but the Transformers, I just said it before, how many Transformers are we going to see? It's the same movie over and over again.
That's true.
It's just nonsense coming at you for 90 minutes, but the movie industry doesn't want to create original content because there's no invested audience. They're like, is it a book already? They go, no. All right, well, we don't have an audience there. Is this a remake or is this a sequel or a reboot? No. All right, well then it's too risky, so we don't want to make it. So let's make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Great.
That was a good one.
Wait, is it already come out?
They went back in time. I mean, they made it in the 90s.
Well, no, like the third one in the reboot.
I have no idea. I only saw one.
It's a disaster, but but they know that kids love the Ninja Turtles. I don't know how kids still love the Ninja Turtles. Like, how did that continue on past the 90s? I don't get that. But anyways, they know it's an invested audience, so they're like, we'll just keep doing this, and kids are going to go see it. And they do, and it's usually garbage. But, like, that's why they keep making that. And original films with original ideas kind of get pushed down. And like, even if a great film comes out, sometimes people don't go see it because they're like, what is this? I don't know what this is about. Let me just go see the reboot of whatever's coming out.
Sure.
And then those ones that no one sees are the ones that win the Oscars, but not extreme amount of attention gets put on them for the major public. Yeah,
and I think that's I think it's a good and a bad that people I think need to be more open to the idea of new things and of new opportunities and of new cool stuff. But let
me hear some of your movie metaphors that you're looking at.
Like I said, I did a whole night on where we were talking about finding, Christian Catholic themes in movies. Obviously, there's the obvious ones that are, Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia. Both of these authors, Tolkien, Lewis, they were Christian guys that wrote with those ideas like on purpose. Mm-hmm. They wrote it that way on purpose.
Like, and look, the lion in that movie was like Jesus,
literally
right?
Jesus. Yeah. Like, there's a whole scene in the Chronicles of Narnia that I show at youth group where he sacrifices himself for the traitor, right? Or for the guy that, like, all of us, because that's symbolization of all of us are traitors. We all sinned against God. So that this unguilty person lion would give up himself, but they shave his fur, they do the whole thing, like just like the passion of Christ, and then he rises again to help them win the battle, but obviously it's not right to the T, but a lot of people can see, like, even in Lord of the Rings, that's my favorite one. That's probably what I'll talk about the most, because there's so many in Lord of the Rings and it's fantastic. But Gandalf, sacrifices himself to save everybody at the end
from the Balrog.
He gets literally pulled down, and goes down, and then returns as this more power. He rises again as this more powerful being, as Gandalf the White. And I see that a lot as Jesus died to then come back to show us the way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of
what a great scene that was.
Yeah, really, really, really good stuff.
That was cutting edge special effects back then. That was in the year 2000, I believe.
Well, but on that same time too, the reason, like, they remade The Hobbits more recently, and those did not do as well because they used too much CGI.
Exactly.
Because the Lord of the Rings, the original ones, only like the battle scenes was like tens of thousands of people, but like for the most part, they hired like so many stunt and sword fighting guys to be like the orcs. There's so much makeup and stuff because they wanted it to be real people.
There's something to that. Look at the Jurassic Park movies. Why does the original Jurassic Park that came out in 1994 can check me on that, feel more real and relevant than the one that just came out 2 years ago or whatever.
The dinosaur was real.
The dinosaur was real. I mean, it wasn't a real dinosaur.
But it was an animatronic.
They made this thing, and like these kids in the Jeep are probably terrified. This thing, like literally, and you feel that.
Yeah.
And because they're not acting on some guy holding up a green like puppet, and they're like, this is actually a dinosaur, and you know.
Right.
But and often like they rush the VFX stuff, so like it doesn't look that great.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But,
that's a good point.
So the Lord of the Rings, that first one, they didn't have a ton of. The computers were still not that great in the year 2000, so they had to rely on a lot of practical effects.
Right.
And so, that they had no choice, but they put that care and devotion into it. They didn't rush it.
Yeah. For sure. So anyway, so like the Lord of the Rings has like so many good ones. I've talked about it on a Tuesday Thought before. My favorite scene in movie history is when the main character Frodo is like he can't go on any longer, and like the burden of the ring is too much for him, and his friend says that he can't carry the burden for him, but he can carry him, and he picks him up and he carries him through the rest of the journey. And I think that is so relevant to our relationship with God when we feel so broken and so lost that we cannot carry on, that God God's carrying the cross already for us. He's already carrying the weight of the world and the sin, but then he picks us up on top of that and carries both of us through. Like that's such a powerful image of that, of friendship, of love, of all of these things that Christ is, that they show in that one scene.
And meanwhile, Gollum is trying to tear him down and take it back the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a constant battle between of temptation and of virtue. And that's what we deal with on a regular basis is like there's temptation to just take it the easy way out, or not worry about doing what you need to do, or following God. And then there's always God who's like, you got to persevere, like just keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. It's a great level of imagery there. The other thing that I like to do is there is a lot of in Disney movies everyone loves Disney movies, right? And
you got a Disney T-shirt on right now.
Yeah, I'm wearing the Lion King shirt.
We might talk about that Lion King remake in a second.
Wow, really bad. Anyway, but there's so many cool ways that we can relate faith to I think in Disney movies. And if we look at these movies in a different way and we try to, like I said at the beginning of the episode, we're searching for Christ in these movies. We should always be actively trying to see where can I find God in this? Mm-hmm. Because if we're not doing that, then we're just like just taking the movie for what it is great. But why not look and see like where can I see Christ in this movie? Where can I see Christ in this story? Where can I see Christ in this character? Because we should be ultimately trying to look for Christ in each other. Why not look for it in these fictional characters as well? Mm-hmm. That Christ is everywhere. Christ can be speaking to us in a bunch of different ways. And I love that because like I'll give you the spoiler alert if anyone hasn't seen any of these movies that we're talking about today. But I saw Frozen 2.
I haven't seen Frozen 1.
Well,
there's a song. Spoiler alert. I've heard the song though.
For Frozen 2 or Frozen 1?
Frozen 1.
Let it go.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Anyway, so Frozen 2. I saw Frozen 2 and I remember and I loved it. And we walked out and like everyone was talking about how great it was. And I'm sitting there like, I saw God all up in that movie. All up in it. Because, the premise of the movie, again, if you haven't seen Frozen 2, stop listening to this podcast. I hate spoiling movies.
Don't stop. Please don't stop. Just skip ahead for like 30 seconds.
Anyway, the main character, she feels like called by something to go out and like, she's like doesn't feel like she knows what her purpose is in life. And she keeps getting called by something and she doesn't know what the heck it is that's calling her. And she sings this whole song about how she has to go into the unknown.
Wait. This is going to be our first ever cliffhanger because this podcast is going by really quick. We're already at 30 minutes when we got to change out the camera. So stay tuned.
Cliffhanger
for the rest of the story.
1 second when it comes back.
Okay.
Wow, guys, thanks for waiting. I know that was a long journey. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So in this movie, oh no, what's her name?
Elsa,
thank you.
I do know that.
Anyway,
I do know that.
She hears this thing and it's like calling her and it's calling her and it's calling her. She's like, I don't know where to go. I don't know. Like, I don't want. And they sing the song about going into the unknown. She doesn't know. I hear this voice and it's calling me to go, but I'm afraid to leave what I know to go do this whatever, but I feel like I should go. And then the whole course of the movie is her journeying out and finding out what her true purpose is. And she had to go into the unknown in order to find out who she truly was. And I think that so many times in life we can all relate to that we feel something, a passion, a desire, maybe not a desire, but a passion, a calling, something that's like calling me to do something greater with my life. But we're afraid sometimes to take that leap. And I related to it so much in my life because I was like, so many times where I'm sitting there and I felt like God's calling me to do more. God's calling me to really dive into this faith thing and do something. You know, before we started the podcast and before we started going out and speaking and stuff, I was like, God is calling me to something, but I knew that the life I had didn't want me to do that. Like there was so many things that were keeping me from doing it, but I felt this call to go and see what it was. Like there's a reason I have this fire. I knew it was from God. And once I did it, you know, I started to realize, I think this is what God is calling me to do. And I had to lose some
You just
things.
had to take all that other stuff and just let it go.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, it was weird that I'm sitting a grown man in Frozen 2 and I'm like, I relate to this movie.
Yeah.
But it was because I related to this movie because I saw God in it.
You saw Christian values and you saw God in it.
And
wow.
it was really cool. That was a long tangent on Frozen 2.
That's great. Look at Danny's spouting all these spiritual Christian themes and metaphors and everything, and I'm just like talking about the movie industry and VFX. So that's why I didn't want to do this episode. So thanks for bearing with all my tangents about the movie industry. Can I ask you a question?
No.
What's your favorite movie of all time? Did we already?
I mean, it's The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King.
What's your second favorite movie?
Nacho Libre.
All right. What are our Christian themes in that?
Well, he is a friar.
There's a good
he's
one.
He's a Catholic friar in that movie in Mexico, and he has. There's one of my favorite monologues in there is he talks about when he's going like he works at an orphanage. Jack Black. He wanted to be a wrestler his whole life, but then he became an orphan, got put in the monastery, and then became a friar, and then he takes care of the orphans. That's the whole premise of the movie. But then he wants to buy a bus for the orphans to go on field trips
For the kids.
for the kids. And then he so he goes and he realized like I'll be a wrestler. I can be a luchador. They make all the money in the world, but I'll wrestle for God. And then he goes and he loses and he loses and he loses, but they still pay him even though he loses. So he goes and he gets beat up and he gets beat up, and then he can buy all this stuff for the kids. And then they find out that he's a wrestler, and they're like, "That's a sin. You can't do that." And then his monk alb catches on fire at one point, and then he has his tights on, and I'm like, "Hey, nice." But he's like, he does this whole monologue about how tonight he's gonna wrestle the strongest man in the world, and he knows that the Heavenly Father will be in the ring with him, and if he wins, he'll know that God blessed his mission to be a wrestler for him. And anyway, so it's super funny. He baptizes his tag team partner at one point.
I saw it a long time ago.
That's
great.
A hysterical movie. I laugh out loud every time I watch it, and I've seen it literally like hundreds of times.
So you're gonna get beat up in this world, but like as long as your mission is for God.
It was the thing about like he knew everyone told him what he was doing was wrong, but he felt like God was pushing him to do it. Even it was this out of the box thing, and he did it anyway. He was like, but this is what, and then he ended up winning the big one, and he bought the orphans a big bus. And
there you go.
There's a lot of other like things that are a little sketchy where he's like talking about how he wants to break vows so he's in love with this nun and stuff. But whatever, you look for the good.
Nice. I don't think I have as many Christian values probably in my favorite movie of all time.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Can you break that down?
I haven't seen Back to the Future in a very long time.
I make a lot of Back to the Future references sometimes at my choir practices with like my teenagers.
Right.
And it shocks me. It saddens me, I guess, that a lot of them haven't seen it at this point.
I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time.
When I was in college, I would stay at a buddy's house 3 nights a week. They lived like across the street from campus. I would just sleep over, but we would put on either Back to the Future 1, 2, or 3 every single night before we went to bed. So I've seen Back to the Future 1 probably like 89 times.
Wow.
Or 85 times, or 88 times. All significant numbers, not 89, but
in Back to the Future.
What's the significance of 85?
I have no idea. That's the year they went back to.
That's the year
they went back. They went from.
That's the year
from 1985.
Yeah, and
they
where'd
went
they go?
To like 2000 and.
Well, in the very first movie they went to 1950.
They went back, and then when did they go forward?
1955 in part 2, they went to 2015, which we already past.
And there was no hoverboards. We didn't get any of the cool stuff.
I know. We got those knockoff hoverboards. They're like, yeah, they're actual hoverboards. They're not hoverboards.
They have wheels.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Back to the Future.
I wish I could break it down for you. I haven't seen Back to the Future enough times.
Like his mom falls in love with him. And
that's not good. That's not it.
He's got to get back to his own time. Comment in, guys, if you can find the Christian themes and values.
Here's the thing about Back to the Future is maybe it's the past is the past, and things have happened in our life that shape the world, and we cannot change that. But all we can do is continue to move forward and continue to chase Christ into the future. You can't live in the past. You can only live moving forward.
Boom. There you go.
And that relates to The Lion King, because The Lion King was my next movie I was going to talk about, because I actually think The Lion King has tons of Catholic Christian values. I did like I said, it was one of the movies that I used in the night I used, because that scene where Rafiki hits Simba with his stick.
And he goes, look hard.
No, but that's a different part. Okay. But so the monkey hits him with the stick, and then he swings at him again, and Simba ducks, and he moves out of the way. And then he goes, see, now you've learned. And I see that as like when it comes to sin, like sin can hurt us. It hurts our soul. It hurts our relationship with God. And we have to be courageous enough and smart enough to know that when that comes back around, get out of the way. Or when that temptation comes, to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do this again. I know what this does to me. I know what this separates me from God. And that scene where he talks about, because he hits him, and then the lion goes, why did you do that? And he goes, it doesn't matter why I did it. It's in the past. And then he swings at him again, and he moves out of the way. So it's like, sure, our sin is in the past. That doesn't mean that we can't learn from it and continue to better ourselves, right? Because it's like, what's the point of asking for forgiveness of something if you're just going to do it again, intentionally? So that was one scene in The Lion King when we talked about the past and Back to the Future and stuff. That was a scene that really spoke to me in that movie. And it's the other one that I really like. It is that scene that you were talking about where he goes like, look harder, that your father lives in you. And he looks in and he sees him in the water, and he sees his reflection, and his reflection turns into his father's reflection. And his father appears in the clouds, and he goes like, you got to be who you were born to be. That's us as Catholics. When we have Jesus within us Eucharistically, when we receive the Eucharist, Christ is dwelling within us. So yeah, he, like that whole scene of the Lion King, of like, he lives in you, the king lives in you. You are your father. You can do the things that your father has pushed you to do because he lives within you. That's just the truth. Our Heavenly Father in the Eucharist dwells within us, lives within us, and we can go out and do what he's asked us to do because he lives within us, literally, in the Eucharist. If we receive it, if we believe it, he lives within us. When we look in our reflection, our hope is that we can one day see Christ, because we want to be a reflection of Jesus in everything that we do.
Wow.
The Lion King. Also, when he's a baby, they anoint him with some kind of fruit. But we can talk about that. Could be like a baptism situation.
Exactly.
They didn't use any water though. So.
And then they throw Mufasa off the ledge, and they.
Wow. Yeah, he's dead.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Shoot. But yeah.
And then they remade. Then they
remade it. And it sucked.
It was so bad,
But that. Go ahead.
Again, they're just trying to reboot. I think all the Disney reboots, they're lifeless, even though they're trying to be.
Aladdin was okay.
It was okay.
It wasn't great.
They're trying to be so realistic. But the problem with the lions is like they didn't train lions to run out. These are all digital. There's like
they're emotionless.
It was like a real life.
They said there was one actual shot with a camera in the whole movie.
Right.
The sunrise was the only shot.
It was an animated movie, but they tried to make real life looking lions, but we fall into that middle ground where they're not. You're like, something's weird about this.
Well, here's the no. I'm gonna say this, and sorry if anyone gets offended, but you know what? I don't really, whatever. It's our podcast, so I don't care. But the remake of The Lion King was not as rich, not as vibrant.
Everything about it was not as vibrant. All the color palette in there was like gray the whole time. It was just gray.
They took out a lot of really important parts They took out a lot of the really great songs. They took out a lot of the really key parts that made that movie good. The emotion,
they're taking the emotion, on an emotional level, they're squashing it, they're compressing it. So the songs, they're like, we need this to be real. Would these people really, like in a musical, would you really go out and sing? So they made him like,
he talked
their lines and stuff. So it's like, but it takes the emotion out.
Right. So, and the point I'm trying to make with it is this. Catholicism, right? The church that Jesus founded. There's so many different denominations of Christianity now. And they're kind of remakes of Catholicism.
Reboots, sequels,
but
whatever.
They took out a lot of the most important stuff that made it so amazing.
Yeah.
Like the beauty of the Eucharist or the Mass or the sacraments. It's gone. They took it out. And so that's why you go and you watch this remake and you're like, what? Where was, like, I remember watching it with my younger brother, Jack, who was just on the podcast, and he goes, and I went,
actually, he'll be on the podcast in like a week or so.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert.
But I was watching it and I was like, where's my favorite part? Like, where was the song that I really liked? Like, was that it? That's it?
Yeah.
And I remember, like, that's how I would feel if I went to a Mass and there was no Eucharist. I'd be like, wait, what?
Right.
Where's the part that's the most important?
They're like, nah, but look over here because we got all this like pizzazz.
And I'm like, no. So I related to, Catholicism was the original film, the original movie. We don't need remakes. The original was great. And I think The Lion King is a perfect example of they remade it and it was a big dud.
It was a big dud.
They tried to it's basically the same movie. No, it's not. You're missing the most important stuff and the key vibrant things that will bring your life. Like you don't feel like when I watch the original Lion King, right? I feel awesome. I'm like, what a great movie. And when you feel awesome after a movie, I walked out of the remake. And I was like, that movie sucked.
Well, I said it before because I was talking about visual effects and stuff, but like some of these mega churches, they put on all the equivalent of VFX, and it's like all this music, this light show, this song and dance and crazy stuff. But where's the substance? We don't have the body of Christ, the body and blood of Christ. The Eucharist is gone. So like it doesn't matter how much crazy stuff is going on and how much people feel, but you're not receiving the Lord, and so all that is just.
Well, that's the thing is check this out is we can have all the lights and the sound and the magic and this and the that and the pizzazz and all that great stuff and cool. A lot of that to a degree, really cool. But I will say this. I would rather have a Mass with no music with 10 old ladies on a Wednesday night and have the Jesus in the Eucharist than all that stuff.
Right, and it goes back to
I would pick that every day of the week.
It goes back to the point of like you can watch a movie with no effects, with like a couple shots, a couple edits, with one character that would on the surface be like completely boring. You're like, why would I ever watch this movie? There's no action. It's just dialogue. But the writing is so intense. The characters, you empathize with them. You are drawn into this story that you don't need all that other stuff, and the substance is there, and you connect with that movie. And these kind of movies win the Oscars,
right?
And so you can have that at Mass. It's the Eucharist. You can have those daily masses with 3 old ladies next to you. And I actually was just at a daily mass at the house that I'm living in. We have a chapel downstairs, and every Monday we have a daily mass. And there's usually like 15 people there that work at this office that I'm at. But everyone was like out of town at the March for Life or whatever. And so this last Monday, a few days ago, it was myself and 2 other people and a priest. And we celebrated Mass. And it was one of the most beautiful,
awesome,
beautiful Masses that I've ever experienced.
So rad.
No music. Just the 3 of us where 2 or 3 are gathered. Look, that's literally right there.
I love it.
It was beautiful. And so, but not to say like, throwing all that visual effects equivalent into Mass can't be great as well, because that helps us feel. But you need to make sure the substance is there. Look at the Marvel movies we talked about. They do it well.
Right.
They do both. They have the storyline. You are drawn in to the story, to the characters. You feel for them. So once the substance is there, you can add on the extras, all the visual effects, all the sound editing, all the music, and then it's the complete package. But that's why they're so popular.
And it all connects to the source, to the point of the movie, what the movie is trying to say.
It has a purpose.
It has a purpose of what the creator, writer, director intended.
Exactly. It's not fluff for fluff's sake, right?
Which is then I'm going to lead into my next point of we have an author, director, writer of our story, and it's God the creator. He wrote, he directed, he created our life. He gives us the beauty of the free will so that we can piece it together as we want to go along. But that all that stuff that we're talking about, stuff that we want to add, if we want to add the cool fluff and pizzazz and great things to our life, which is great, you know, all the world is, we have afforded a lot of amazing things. But if the things that we're doing in our life do not ultimately connect us back to the point, to the source, which should be God and living for him, then it is all just fluff and nonsense. Everything that we do should connect us back to God. God should be the focus of our story, of our movie. The life of our movie should ultimately always connect us back to God.
So live your life as it's the original movie. Don't live your life like you're the fifth sequel of the reboot, right? I guess that's what I'm hearing.
Well, it's the thing is like we all are living life somewhat as a supporting character. Jesus should be the main character of everyone's life. If Jesus was the main character of everyone's life and we were all supporting characters, lifting each other and lifting all of us close back to God, back to Jesus as the main character, imagine how the world would be.
Yeah, because us that think that we're the main character, we have the wrong point of view.
Exactly.
So yeah, you might not get as much screen time, but it's a more of you, less of me.
Right.
That's the mindset we need to carry through. And even if you know, you're the primary focus of this movie that I'm living in, that's what's important, because that's what draws people in. That's what
right.
lifts people up. That's what helps us grow closer to God. And so we are there to support him.
Yep. I want to see Jesus in all my main characters. Where is God? Where can I see God in this? You know, it's the same with us, the main character of our story. I want people to. There's an awesome song by Jeremy Camp. I actually like him a lot.
I'm not a big.
You're not a big fan, but he there's a song called "Christ in Me," and he talks about his whole life. He wants it to be, when people look at me, I want them to just see Christ in me. Don't see me, but I want you to see Christ. That's what we should be striving for. And when we see, and maybe when we see these movies, where's Christ in this movie? What character is displaying? Maybe it's all of them. When are these characters displaying Christ? How can I take that and use it as an example in my life? There's so many movies that have examples of sacrifice, right? And Jesus says that there is no greater love than one to lay down his life for his friends. What Jesus does, he showed us that example. He was the sacrifice that saved the world. And then you see all these incredible movies of characters sacrificing themselves for their friends. It's a constant theme in every movie. You know, that goes back to Jesus was the sacrifice that saved the world. He's the original story. And in all these movies are taking the beauty of his sacrifice as a example. Everyone's like, oh, that movie touched me so much because the only one I can think of right now is the Inside Out, because I was watching it, where the pink elephant guy pushes them off and he falls down. He disappears. He's like, go save the world. I'll take the fall. You know, like, or
we talked about in Endgame.
In Endgame, Tony Stark, boom, he sacrifices himself so that everyone else can live. And it's all of these, and everyone's like, I connect with that so much. Hello, Jesus is that. He sacrificed himself so that we could live, so that we could be free. Every movie we watch, everything that we see, where we connect with these characters and we're like, that's so beautiful, that's so amazing. Jesus did it first. Jesus is that for us every single day in our life. Every day we wake up and have the opportunity to live is because Jesus died for it.
Yep.
That's it. I got all riled up.
That's good. Danny has all the mic drop moments in this episode. I'm just here for I'm the fluff and you're the you're all the actual content. But not all movies have that theme, and not all movies you can see Christ. There's plenty of movies that are like, wow, what was that? You can use those as examples of what not to do, or examples of themes that don't align, but like be able to see,
of course,
the difference.
And sometimes you're gonna see a movie just for the sake of the movie.
Yeah,
which is okay.
Like, I just saw the movie Bad Boys. It's like
Bad Boys 2?
Bad Boys 2, yeah. Or 3.
Bad Boys 3?
The one that just came out.
I've never seen any of Bad Boys.
I think I saw them back in the day, but like, it was like, why did they make this? No one really asked for it. It was not bad. But it was like, sure, there was not much there.
Or like Napoleon Dynamite. What's the point of that movie? But it's so funny. Yeah, so sometimes there's movies just for the sake of movies.
Yeah.
But if you can, look for God.
I mean, I've seen Bishop Barron do some analysis of some movies where you're like, I never thought I could see any Catholic values in that.
Right.
And he
I
pulls
love
it
that.
out of there.
Oh, I love that.
You know? So go on Word on Fire and search like any of his movie analysis.
Yeah, okay.
There's some great stuff. And like some like explicit content, hard R films that are like, you would think, oh my gosh, like how could you possibly see God in this? And like it's blatantly there. We just have to look for it.
That's it. I think that's the point we're trying to make in this episode. It's there. You have to look for it. God is everywhere, but we have to look for him. Sometimes
this world has an R rating, and you're like, oh my gosh,
like how could God be here?
Right.
In these horrible things that are like we just talked about earlier in the episode, the tragedy of loss of the Kobe Bryant and all the other people on that helicopter. Where's God in this?
Yeah, how is this movie have a happy ending?
Yeah, where does this end? This is horrible. Where could God be if God is so good? And that's the challenge that we have to look for, is that trust and that faith in God that there is good, even if we can't see it right away, even if we don't understand.
We don't know. We don't have a copy of his script, of his storyline.
Yeah.
We have to trust and know that he wrote the perfect story for this universe, for all of our lives, for this world. We're never going to be able to see it until once we pass into
if
this
God
life,
willing we get to heaven, then maybe.
But when we're one with God. But right now we have to trust that script is done absolutely perfectly, and that there's a purpose and a meaning for everything.
Yeah, amen.
So, Oscars this Sunday. Check it out.
I'm not
going to watch it.
I'm not watching.
I'll Google Oscar winners and see who won, and we'll probably see some clips of like some weird acceptance speeches.
Yeah, whatever.
It's gonna be wild. But so go out, go see some movies, but like look for those values, look for those Catholic values in them.
Yeah,
and that's it.
And if you don't, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Twitter.
We haven't done anything on Twitter, like but, nothing.
Give us a follow. Check us out on all of our social media. If you feel the need or if you feel the calling, we would love for your support on Patreon. It helps us too with our equipment, with our travel expenses, with all that good stuff. We would love to have you be on that. We do have merch coming soon. I know we say that every episode. I promise we are working on it. It's coming. Coffee mugs, t-shirts, whatever. We're gonna get there. If you were going to be at Religious Ed Congress in LA, the Anaheim Convention Center in
February 20th, 19th,
20th, 21st.
Yeah.
We will be there. Please come and say hello. If you're there, we'll be walking around either together or separated.
I'll be singing at the Young Adult Mass on Saturday evening.
I'll be attending it.
Danny will be there. I'll be at the closing Mass and the opening ceremonies.
Cool. I'll probably be at the opening ceremonies too.
So you will be around. We'll be doing various things.
Yeah.
We'll be walking around. We'll be filming, doing some interviews and stuff. So please come and say hello.
Yeah, come say hello.
Let's get you on our Instagram story, whatever. But we'd love to meet you, see where you guys are at,
Absolutely.
see what, all the great things you guys are doing. But it's a wonderful event. If you guys don't know about it, it's at the Anaheim Convention Center, which is now like 4 miles from my house.
Nice.
And it's like 20 to 30,000 Catholics from around the United States, but some come globally. And it's just a time for
community,
for reflection,
mass,
for
prayer.
mass,
yeah.
for
there's
for
confession
music,
all day. It's an amazing day.
Prayer.
Weekend.
There's talks. There's booths that you can go walk through and buy good, awesome Catholic goods, and then you can just network in community with all your fellow Catholics.
Yeah, and we'll shout out. We'll probably be hanging out there a lot over the course of it. Is our buddy Joe is always there. Joe Melendrez will have his booth there. We'll probably be hanging out there a lot. So go check him out. Godswag Apparel. We just got to always shout out Joe. But yeah, come say hi. We'd love to see you.
Yeah. So go. Jeez, I'm done. Oh man.
So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good.
Peace.